Welcome back to another episode of Real Word Confessionals, where we ask the questions never asked to tell the story seldom told. And we have Kori. And Kori, I've said your name right.
Do it.
before.
Oh my God, this is the best part of the show. This is the best part of the show.
I'll give you a hint. It's pronounced just like it's spelled. There's no magic potion here to this name.
Covrigaru.
Close enough.
No.
Close
It's
enough.
a new.
You say it.
Kovrigaru.
Covrigaru.
It's Romanian. Means bagel maker.
Hungarian, Romanian friend. You know,
Really?
no Hungarian,
I want
just
the
Romanian.
bagel maker last name. I love bagels with some good old cream cheese on there.
Marry a guy in my family if you want that last name. I think we're the only ones.
Yeah, I'm one of 19 Lazines
Yeah.
in the country. I've got the Hungarian Romanian thing going as well. So no
That's
Hungarian, just Romanian for you.
Well, as far as we can tell, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you do the whole swab, like the 23 thing? Like you did? You
I
know
haven't
it?
done it yet. I got to do that.
My lineage is more accurate than the swab. I know.
Yeah?
I went to that village. I saw where it all started.
That's right.
It's crazy,
You did that a few years ago before.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. My grandmother, we took her back 50 years after they fled for Israel. We took her back, my dad and I, and it was really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Kori, give us the background. You're CEO of PlanOmatic.
Sure. Yep.
Give us the background, how you got there. You just give us the quick recap here.
The quick recap. The conclusion is I am unemployable. I cannot have a job. So I had to figure something out to survive. But entrepreneurship was always interesting to me. I was an entrepreneur major in college, my first college. I transferred, but basically had a friend of a friend that had some software that create floor plans, photos. It was brand new, 2005. Agents were taking photos with their own cameras, which they still are sometimes. And so things have changed, obviously, but just kind of got into it, grew, bootstrapped our whole way up. So never took any funding or anything like that. But here we are today, nationwide, property insights, 3D, photography, floor plans for real estate nationwide. So we're a little over 40 full-time employees. We have our teams overseas for post-production. And then we also have our contractor network, of course, our PlanOmatic across the country. And so, I've been around for 16 years. Yeah.
I have to know though, have you ever taken a photo? Have you ever walked into a home and actually taken a photo?
Of course. That's how I started out.
Yeah.
But what's ironic is, yes, I did. And I worked at this person's company for a while, shooting photos. I'm not a professional photographer. I don't know what aperture means. I don't know that stuff. But yes, I was shooting. But what I learned early on was that in order to grow the business, I had to stop shooting and I had to unlearn how to shoot and how to post produce. So even when we were doing a few listings a week, we already were outsourcing that or hired on contractors to help us with that. So early on, the focus was growing the business, organization, culture, sales, operations, not being in the business, but working on the business.
And did you see it heading in this direction or did you or do you feel like you pushed it, like the industry in this direction?
I think we had a pretty clear vision that this was going to be the norm where we are today. I think we thought it was going to happen a lot faster. Back then people thought that there was going to be a real estate video on every single property in the country, right? Or let's say 3 years ago, everybody thought there was going to be a 3D model for every single property in the country. That's not the case. I mean, I like to quote my friend that he says, things have never moved so fast, but they're still moving super slow compared to everything else, right? So, yeah, I think we knew there were going to be professional photos. I think we thought there would be more floor plans out there, especially given what kind of goes on the East Coast.
I agree.
The rest of the country didn't really pick up on that. I think we saw that this was going to be the case for sure.
Yeah, you've done an incredible job. I mean, nationwide for professional photography, floor plans company, it's unbelievable. We talked about it on my podcast in San Diego. Were we in San Diego when we did that?
San Diego T360, right? That was like 2 years ago. It was
T360, yeah. It was more than 2 years ago because it was before. Was it? Maybe it was 19 or 18, 2019. Talked about scaling the unscalable. I mean, that's essentially what you've done.
Yes. Still working on it. Scaling the unscalable. It's all been a challenge, but it's possible. I mean, the thing that allows us to be able to do what we're able to do and what allows a lot of other industries and sectors do what they're able, like iBuying, you couldn't do that before technology enabled them to offer this service and be efficient, or the single family rental space, managing single family homes nationwide. That wasn't possible before tech. So same with us. I mean, we weren't able to really grow and scale unless we had that tech that enabled us to, pass information along to our contractor network and receive information back at an efficient, scalable manner. So tech has allowed us to sort of expand.
All right, let's get into the first confessional. You can take it any direction you want, whether it be personal or business. What is something right now that currently overwhelms you?
Something right now that currently overwhelms me. I have to say that we've grown to a size where I oftentimes feel like I have a decent amount of weight on my shoulders. There are a lot of people that depend on me from the top, and of course my leadership team and the rest of the company. But ultimately, decisions from the top impact hundreds, if not over 1,000 people, between our teams in India, Philippines, Vietnam, our PlanOmatic here, our employees, their families, their kids. Maybe their parents, right? So I think that overwhelms me. We've gotten to a size where a misstep can be costly, and so that's overwhelming to a certain extent. I don't sign off at 5 p.m. I carry that through the night. So it's fun. It's what I want to be doing. I'm up for the challenge, but it's daunting. It's heavy, man. It's heavy.
But that must also motivate, though. No, on the other side, because you are, so concerned and worried about it. Doesn't that obviously motivates you to work past 5 p.m.?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't work past 5 p.m. I think about work 24/7, but I put everything down typically between 4 and 4:30, and I spend the rest of the evening with my kids or riding my bike or teaching at CU or something like that. But it definitely fuels, it's exciting. It's motivating. It's what makes me show up every day. Like, every decision counts. And a lot of people depend on it, and a lot of people believe, right? So, it's absolutely motivating. It wouldn't be possible without that pressure. I'm an athlete. I was a competitor. I perform under pressure. That's kind of what I've always, done. So it fits well with my mentality and lifestyle.
If you're not working past 5 p.m., what time you start and work? How many days a week are you working?
I'm working 5 days a week. Try to be up around 4:30. Work for about an hour, get a workout in. My kids wake up, make them food. Sometimes take them to school. Sometimes my wife. And then I'm in from about 8:30 after my initial hour, 8:30 till about 4:30, and then I go back to the family. And that's another big motivator and reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm unemployable. We had a speaker yesterday at CU in our real estate tech class. I'm a TA. I teach with Mike Del Preti.
Oh,
and we had an executive.
We've covered a bunch of Mike stuff from Inman.
Yeah,
he's great. So what is this CU?
He teaches that class, real estate tech, Real 4200, and
it's a university. He's an
You're
assistant.
A professor?
Yeah, he said he's a TA. So
wow.
I'm a TA. Yeah.
He's a TA.
Okay.
I
He's
finally
a
got a
assistant.
job. I take it back. Mike's my boss. So
Yeah. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, I know. I sent it directly to my mom and my grandmother. I was like, look, I got a job finally. No, but what was I? And so we had an executive from a very high profile. Actually, an executive from a high profile company, and they shared that, one of the things that they would tell the students is, like, make sure you prioritize your family. You're not going to get that time back with your infant, right? And so if you're in like corporate America and you have to work whatever you got to work, that time is gone. It doesn't come back. You have to try to make it up somehow. And so that's why that's family's always number one for me. We call this culture the Plano fam. It's kind of all part of what we do. And so I make sure I have time for that. Absolutely.
Mike, I haven't gotten a chance to ever really have a conversation with Mike, but seems like he's really emerged as one of the top handful of minds breaking down the industry, like the data, where it's headed. You've got a obviously relationship with him. Just I'd love to hear your thoughts on what he's doing for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of quickly moved up the chain to probably the most followed, an analyst, I guess, in the space very quickly, right? So when it comes to iBuyers, portals, emerging models, Compass, Redfin, we study all this stuff in class. And what's fascinating is, and the reason why I think he's so successful is that he's just so passionate about this stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
he wants to know, and his biggest thing is providing information to brokers, agents, investors, and making sure it's an even playing field, and really, lifting the hood up and saying, okay, here's the data, here's the real data. Because what you just mentioned to me is like where we're headed. He doesn't really, if you pay attention, he never speculates. He just simply takes data, presents it in a even fashion, and comes to some conclusions that are facts. They're factual. They're not opinion. And then also allows for his audience to kind of draw their own conclusions. So he's super passionate about it. I don't think he needs to be doing what he's doing, to be honest. He doesn't need to be teaching, but he's passionate about teaching. He's passionate about the analysis and about the industry in general.
Because he's breaking down the industry that most people are not, different segments, like you said, iBuyer and these types of things, you can almost see where things are going because, okay, here's conclusion as of today, but that data really allows brokers to make a decision. I mean, yeah, you basically, he's in the, Stefan and Ivy Zellman league, with the work he's doing. So, all right, you said you think about work all the time. Confessional number 2. The question is, what do you think about most often? So what are you thinking about specifically most often?
Breaking it. Well, I think about my family most often. I mean, I just kind of went over that. But if I'm not thinking about my family, honestly, I'm thinking about how I'm going to get outside and work out, usually on a mountain bike or a road bike, if I'm being completely honest about it.
And you get ridiculous weather in Denver, right? Is that the story? I've never been.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Come visit. Yeah, we get ridiculous weather. I mean, it's like been 95 for the last couple of days. We have smoke in the air. It's pretty tough, but yeah, it's pretty schizophrenic. It can be 95 one day, 75 another day. In the winter, it can be 65 or below freezing. I enjoy it. I mean, I grew up in Michigan, so I kind of like saw all seasons all year, mostly winter, I guess, in Michigan, but no offense to my Michigan folks, but yeah, it's a little weird. We deal with it.
All right. Confessional number 3. Yes. How have your faults hindered you from more success? You're obviously super successful, but how have your faults hindered you from even more success?
Well, success is in the eye of the beholder, of course. How have my faults? So I'm a traditional visionary where I will change the plans on my team as the wind blows. And I think for the first probably about 10 years, I mean, we're 16 years in, but for the first 10 years, there was little to no focus. There was little to no emphasis on culture. I had little to no patience. And I think that all those things that I just mentioned, they sort of come with fatherhood. One thing will mature you quickly and you become more patient, you become all these things and focus. But I think just time and experience. I mean, you can tell someone in their 20s who's in a startup all day long, like, you got to focus. You have to pick one thing and focus on it, focus on a client base, ideal client profile, business model, and if you don't give things enough time, you'll just fly through ideas and never come up with anything good. And so, I like that quote, that Steve Jobs quote about paraphrasing here, but he was most proud of all the good ideas that he said no to. Right. And I relate to that. So, slowing down, focusing, and not driving my team crazy. Those are things that I'm still working on.
Was there ever a moment building this team where maybe somebody on the team said, "Hey, man, you got to think about it a different way," or something that happened that also, you mentioned fatherhood, but something specifically inside the business that changed the way you were going to approach the culture and the team?
Yeah, there were 2 people in particular here. One was her name is Stephanie Smith. She's our HR manager. She started out in our call center and she kind of moved her way up to this culture lead and then HR. And now she's got her certification and everything like that. So she really motivated me to put an emphasis on culture, establish culture, make it a big priority here at the company. And then And then my chief operating officer and good friend from college, Chad Gagnon, he kind of introduced this concept of focus. It's funny, like he's an integrator, I'm a visionary, so he kind of runs the operation, right? So he introduced me to this book, Traction, which I've talked about here before, but
the EOS model.
EOS, the entrepreneur operating system. Yeah. And so that changed everything. So EOS, we couple that with the 4 disciplines of execution. Those 2 books changed everything for us. But what changed things for me personally, though, is I started speaking to a mentor, actually a friend of my father's. I started speaking to him once a week about some personal issues, but more business issues. And that's also opened my mind. Just exposing yourself to experienced people who have been there, done that, is paramount, right? Like people have seen it.
Did you take the EOS model word for word? Did you? I think you just said you might have blended it with something else, or are you doing it like step by step?
We're pretty religious about it. It marries to the 4 disciplines of execution really well. So our annual WIG, or wildly important goal, that's the company goal. That's not really a traction thing, but that's how we establish our quarterly goals, our departmental goals. So it's taking that 4 disciplines of execution, applying the lead measures versus lag measures, the wildly important goals and all that stuff, and incorporating that into EOS and your weekly leadership team and accountability charts, scorecards, all that stuff. It really works really well together. So, but we're pretty religious about EOS. I mean, we are having L10 meetings every Thursday, 8:30 Mountain Time, no questions asked. That's when it's happening. We have quarterly meetings. We have annual planning meetings. We live and die by our culture and values. And so, yeah, all that stuff is very important to us.
EOS, for those of you not familiar, Kori mentioned the book Traction. I would definitely pick it up. There's other books in the series, Rocket Fuel, and some of these other ones. I would definitely consider diving into those if you're building out a team of any sorts. Okay, so Kori,
yes,
we've all been wrong on something somewhere. A business trend or a prediction that you said was absolutely going to go one direction, and it went the complete opposite.
Well, the biggest prediction that I can think of at this moment, I thought that the real estate market was going to completely collapse last year. I really did.
At what point?
And
when were you thinking this? What month was it when you were thinking that?
This was probably, March, April, when everybody started losing their jobs. We didn't know anything about, PPP loans or any bailout or anything like that. And I just thought to myself, no one's going to be able to afford anything, period. So we're like, what homes weren't transacting at the time because we were all locked down. So there was a point in time where it was like, what's even the value of a home today? How do you put a value on a home when you have no comps and you don't know who can afford what? And so I believed that the iBuyer model was pretty much done. I believed that the real estate market was going to tank, affordability was going to tank, and we were going to have another foreclosure crisis. And that's kind of the mentality that I had. And we were preparing for that. We're very heavy in the single family rental space, the owner operator space. Right. And so, we were well hedged against something like that. And I've always, thought that, because when home values plummet, that's when these companies kind of pick up inventory and rent them out. But that's really what I thought. I thought this market was, done for a while and was going to take a long time to recover. And it was quite the opposite, obviously. I mean, home values are through the roof. Well, for now, at least, home values are through the roof. People can't buy fast enough. There's the sprawl to go to single family homes. And that was not something I predicted. I didn't know that this remote work or hybrid was going to last or work very long, but it seems to be working really well. We've expanded our borders to the rest of the states to be able to hire talent, because talent's hard to find good people. And so I guess I was wrong about this whole pandemic. I was definitely wrong. Hope nobody took my advice.
I think everybody was. I mean, for 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, I feel like we were wrong for maybe 2 weeks, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were closing down offices. Yeah, we were getting rid of internet, getting rid of our cleaning ladies. I mean, we were.
Well, there was nothing to clean. Yeah, I mean, we definitely took.
Well, but even in our own personal homes, it was start crossing things off.
Cross lines off the P&L at home, right?
You have
who
to.
knows what's going to happen? Yeah,
absolutely.
That was a message with the whole team. For me, when the NBA canceled the season, was when I said, hey, everybody needs to look at every business included, like Nicole said, every expense that you have that you don't need because you don't know what's what. But we were fortunate in suburbs in Connecticut where, being on the Connecticut shoreline, where pretty quickly we could see that, okay, there's going to be something here for us, because there was so many New Yorkers trying to get out of the city. And then you started thinking about how that would impact other cities. So it wasn't a long-term thing, fortunately. But
no,
those first 2 weeks of flattening the curve, nobody kind of knew what the heck was going on. So how quickly did you realize, okay, I'm wrong on this? Probably pretty quick. Or
no, it took me a while, because our clients, our biggest clients, were still paused on acquisitions. And then tenants weren't turning over. And so we had very little reason to go into to homes and shoot for them. Right.
Yeah. What percentage of the business is the rental for you?
Pretty high.
Or if you don't want to answer that, that's fine.
It's pretty high. It's a majority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. So you're heavy on I would say that's a commercial side then.
Well, people say commercial. I mean, it is specific. Like, when I think commercial, and that's another thing, I thought, office space and retail was like done. And
I'm talking commercial multifamily.
Yeah.
Sounds like big multifamilies, right?
So not multifamily, but truly single family rentals, iBuyers, property managers,
BlackRock.
Yeah, well, a few ladders a few steps up the ladder, but eventually, that money trickles down for sure. Yeah. So that's So not commercial. I wouldn't say commercial, and not even multifamily. We've really, again, the focus thing, right? So we've really focused in on our ideal client profile, and that's these REITs, these owner operators, institutional money that's renting homes. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that. It's an interesting industry, but that's really our focus, and that's the majority of our business today.
No, I mean, I'd love for you to dive in before we go to the last confessional. There's, I saw a number, New York Times, it was March of this year, over $60 billion of single family homes is owned by Wall Street. Certainly everybody saw that BlackRock was pushing another 6 or 7 billion in to that pot. They obviously see opportunity. There's single family homes that everybody believes are at the top of the market or are overpriced, and there's local investors in everybody's market that are waiting for these prices to come crashing down. But the institutional money, Wall Street, doesn't believe that they're going to come crashing down, or they wouldn't be pushing billions into this asset class. How are they thinking about it?
Well, it's a long-term play. Everybody wants great cap rates, right? But it's a long-term play. When you're planning on holding for a minimum of 10 years, I mean, what's the difference if you buy a single family rental for 200 versus 220? It makes no difference, right? So that's their mentality. They want to get their hands on as many properties as they can. But like, to give perspective, I mean, you just threw out some really big numbers, but to give the audience some perspective on really what the institutional investors are doing, I think between 2 and 2.5% of the single family rentals in this country are professionally managed today. 2 to 2.5%, right? So the rest are managed by mom and pop landlords and so forth. So the amount of opportunity that's out there right now, and the amount of inventory, not necessarily vacant or not, but there's so much room for everybody to get a piece. I mean, there's not enough inventory. They're building communities, right? They're building new construction communities to satisfy the demand for single family rentals, because it's through the roof. I mean, occupancy rates are like 98% with these portfolios. So you hear a lot about, are they pricing people out of homes and this and that, but there's so much out there that they're not even making a dent. I mean, they're barely a player when it comes to the people or the organizations that are going after these single family rentals. And so I think, from a larger perspective, it's not as much as you think it is, because the real estate value in this country is like, I don't know how many tens of billions or $1 trillion, right? So that's their mentality, though.
To your point, I think it's 87% of single to 4 family rental properties are owned by the small investor, which is like just the person that bought a second house, that bought maybe has three or four properties in a certain town. So yeah, 100%.
Yep.
All right, Kori, you are right now. This is the last confessional before we go to Nicole's rocket round.
The rocket round. We haven't changed.
We got to get Rocket Loans to sponsor your rocket round somehow. Anyways, you are now the wizard of real estate. You've got a magic wand in your hand, but you can only change one thing forever in the industry. What would it be? And we're talking residential real estate industry.
All right, I'm going to say something bold here. I would end dual agency, and I would eliminate the fact that the seller pays the buyer's agent commission.
Wow. That was very bold. We haven't gotten that one yet, have we, Nicole?
Oh, everyone's like, education.
Bringing up the
continuing ed.
How hard it is to get a license. Okay, so let's break this down. You kind of put two things in there.
There are two things there.
We said one, but you kind of did say two there. All right, so let's break them both down. I mean, there's a lot of lawsuits right now.
And I have to be honest, like I'm not privy to all the details in these lawsuits. Like,
okay. So dual agency. Why?
Because I know countless times I have friends who have won buyers who have won listings because they were represented by both agents, and their offer just went to the top because it's double dipping, right? It's double the commission. And that's just that's not okay. I mean, there's no way that's okay. I mean, the seller's agent doesn't even need to present other offers. Like the seller could not even know there are other offers out there.
I mean, obviously that would be unethical and
totally unethical.
Certainly they could lose a license for that, but has it or could it happen? I think maybe a small percentage. Would you potentially see buyers then going unrepresented, just saying, okay, I can't get into dual agency, but I'll just choose to be unrepresented so that I'm dealing direct? Because you do have a percentage of buyers that are like, I just want to talk to a listing agent. So some buyers may choose to say,
well, because they know they probably think that exact scenario, that their offer is going to be brought to the top.
I'm going to unrepresent and see what happens here.
Well, and the reason why it works is because that commission between the seller and the seller's agent is established before the listing goes live. And so whether someone goes direct or not, I mean, that seller is still obligated to pay the 5.86%, whatever, wherever you are, commission, regardless of whether there's representation for the buyer or not. And that kind of plays into the other scenario, which is if the buyer's agent is working for the buyer and is supposed to be acting in the best interest of the buyer, then why is the seller's agent paying, or why is the seller paying their commission? I mean, in reality, like I mean, and I know this, ethics aside, right? But the buyer's agent is motivated to close at the highest price financially, right? And so
just based off financially, not their ethics.
It's just financially, not in terms of fiduciary or any of that stuff. But it's just interesting to me that like they're working for the buyer, they're looking for homes to buy, and then they're paid. It's like, what if you're not getting a divorce? What if someone's getting a divorce, right? Can you imagine if like you went to court and you were relying on the other party's lawyer to represent you? Like, how does that work?
So are you thinking it would be
I
like...
understand the argument here.
Are you thinking it would be like a flat fee, though? Because still, if I'm still getting based off a percentage of the purchase price, I'm still wanting it to sell at maybe 4 and based on what you're saying at 4 instead of 350.
Yeah, but here's my concern too, and you can touch on both, is when you get into the below median price point homes, and we know we have an affordability issue in real estate, in this country for sure, in terms of, below median price point homes. You have somebody trying to buy a $250,000 house, and they're very uneducated in the process. Oftentimes, because the seller is paying the listing broker that commission, the listing broker is paying the buyer agent their portion of the commission. Mm-hmm. The buyer, if they had to pay the commission out of pocket, they wouldn't have it because they're wrapping everything into the loan.
But at least the buyer can decide what they're going to pay, right? Like the buyer has no control over what they're going to pay for commission. Like that amount should be between the buyer and the buyer's agent. And to be honest, based on how things have changed and what Zillow's doing, right, and all the other portals and making this information, people are finding their own homes. Okay, that's a reality. I mean, the high majority, I would assume, this is not data backed, are finding their own homes. And so does that commission potentially need to be compressed then? I mean, maybe. Like let's allow
and it is.
for.
I mean, it's been compressed, yeah.
But I think that business needs to be between the buyer and the buyer's agent. I mean, in a market like today, you may want to negotiate that, right? I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But at least you want to have control over how much or if you're paying a commission or not, and not to be, I think Redfin did a great service by posting that buyer's agent commission. There's no reason why that shouldn't be transparent, right? And that's one step towards transparency.
I agree 100%, by the way.
But then, you've got situations, right, where like you've got that whole story here in Denver with Trailora, I believe, and please, don't quote me, I don't know, but their commission model is different where they're paying a buyer's agent commission that's much lower. Well, then buyer's agents are less incentivized to show those homes. And that's not in the best interest of the buyer either, right? Like if I'm an agent and I'm representing a buyer, I hope that I'm an ethical person and I'm definitely going to show them all the listings, but am I going to like really try to push this listing that's going to pay me a third of the commission than the rest of the listings?
I think that argument is kind of off the table at this point because to the point you made earlier, buyers are finding their own homes that they want to see online. So they are driving the bus on which homes that they do want to see. So there's not much of where you had the book. It's like, I got to rely on my buyer agent to like bring me properties or anything like that.
Right.
Where a valuable buyer agent comes in is top level service, being able to educate somebody through the process. And so ultimately the good agents in this industry, because gun to my head, does what we're saying happen to the buyer agents? 100%. 100%. This will happen over the next 10 years. Gun to my head, my opinion. So buyer agents, extremely vulnerable over the next 10 years, the way it looks today. Lots of changes coming. And I've said this for probably 10 years, right? But eventually I'll be right if I keep saying it. Here's what's going to happen. The good agents, the great agents are all going to go to the high end because if I'm working with somebody who's looking for $5 million homes, they want the concierge level of service where everything's going to be taken care of and they're going to want the process. If I'm buying a $200,000 home and I can literally, because I can't wrap in buyer agency fees into my mortgage, I literally might only be able to afford, $500 for a buyer agent who in their right mind is going to provide the level of service necessary to educate somebody to take everything off the table for them for $500.
And I agree with that. And I don't think it's $500. And I don't necessarily have a solution. I don't. But I just, the fact that that's in the control of the seller and the seller's agent, I think is misrepresenting the buyer. You know what I would love from a buyer's agent, like I started a small single family rental fund. And so we have a small portfolio. We're in Birmingham, Alabama, and looking elsewhere. But what I would love from a buyer's agent is to find, because we're finding that there are a lot of deals like this out there, find deals that are off market. Like if I'm going to work with a buyer's agent, that's the primary goal that I have, is find something that nobody else knows about, right? Find like that deal if they're out there. That I think there's some value. Tremendous value. I understand. Bring me some, right? Yeah.
But
there's plenty of value walking people across this. Yeah.
My point is, you're pretty sophisticated in real estate. So same thing. I would never need. I mean, I would never need somebody, even another market, helping me through the process. I've been, I know the process. And so I want, extreme value in anybody that I would pay a fee to in my situation. But if you're only making this transaction once out of every 10 years, you're going to do it 3-4 times in your life. There is value to somebody literally holding your hand the entire way and taking the best buyer agents take stress out of the process, because it's one of people's most stressful times. So it's whether that's, legitimately helping them move or whatever, like it's removing the stress is the value of a great buyer agent.
It's psychology though. And we teach
this
in class.
Homes.
Actually, Mike has, but Mike has a whole class dedicated to risk aversion, and that's psychology. And human beings are risk averse. I mean, human beings, generally speaking, are more terrified to lose $5 than the joy they get out of making $5. And so because of that simple psychology, you've got things like, high frequency, low risk, which is like an Uber ride. You can try an Uber ride, or Netflix. You can cancel that after a month. But low frequency, high risk, right? Like divorce lawyer, I mentioned that. Buying a home.
That was a great example, by the way.
Right. Maybe buying a car, right, is closer to low frequency, high risk. And because of human psychology, and we ask this question of our students, how many people here think that the real estate agent is going to be eliminated? These are seniors at CU, at University of Colorado. And it depends on when throughout the class we ask them, because once, like if we're focused on iBuyers, then all of a sudden, the next class, they'll say agents have, 5 years to go. Right. But then we maybe bring someone in from Remax, and they explain the business model and why it's successful. And it's like, well, wait, they're not. And then we get into risk aversion, and then everybody really understands that it's such a big decision that emotionally and psychologically, people need an experienced person to help walk them across the line, especially for first-time or second-time home buyers who haven't done it very much. It's absolutely necessary, and I believe it's here to stay. I believe that professionals are needed to help with this decision and to help with everything. It's not just finding a home, right? It's the due diligence process. It's the financing is a big deal. It's the number one reason why deals fall through, right? So help with financing. So we talk about this stuff all day. Well, not all day, but during class, it's awesome to think about.
No, it's fascinating. I'm so glad you brought it up and went a totally different direction than we've ever heard, because it made the entire podcast. So what's Mike's take on what you just said, dual agency, and if you know it, I'm sure, sitting in those, helping him with those classes, it, dual agency and the buyer commission thing.
Well, so every time he asks me a question during class, he prefaces and says, because he thinks I have a problem with this, like, without giving your own opinion, Kori, can you explain such and such? And so when people ask him, he says, he'll go like this, I don't know. What do you think? How do you see it? I don't think he's got a stance on that. He's really not a speculator. He does not speculate. He does not try to guess. And I don't think he doesn't know what all the answers are. I mean, he does a lot of consulting for different companies, but does he think that? I think if I had to guess, and Mike, don't shoot me, man, but I think that he finds that it's very odd that sellers pay the buyer's commission. We've spent a decent amount of time in class about that.
It's very odd. It's the only industry that does it. I mean, I talked to one of my friends growing up who's in finance in New York City about this often. He always brings it up. He's like, it just blows my mind that that's the case. They represent big, 150 million and up acquisitions where, legitimately, they would never have one of these acquisitions, somebody paying both sides of the fees. It would just never, ever happen. And so when they represent somebody trying to get acquired, they're getting their fee there. When they represent somebody looking to buy, or acquire a company, they're getting their fee there. But it's a tricky conversation because what do you do with those lower, the median and lower single family home purchase? Somebody really trying to achieve the dream, and they've got, one shot at not making a huge mistake, and they want to do it right, and they want to have advice, and they should. And you know what? Can you get a lot of advice off of YouTube or somewhere like that? Certainly, but do they know that market internally? So there's a lot that goes into it. It's tricky. It's definitely tricky. I appreciate you bringing that up, though, Kori.
Yeah.
Nicole, let's get into, these are very quick. This is a lot lighter of a topic that
I feel like I know
went
most
through.
of his answers already. I feel like that's what we should do. We should.
Wow.
It should be our lightning round based on the interview.
Based on what we think.
I'm that easy to read, huh?
No.
I don't know about
You're
that,
very
Kori.
clear. You're very clear, which is. Right. But again, it's sort of. This is just like a this or that. It's just supposed to be fun. Okay. It is very lighthearted, and again, it's lightning. So just answer, and we move on to the next. Ready?
Cool.
Okay.
Yep.
Phone call or text?
Phone call.
Facebook or Instagram?
I'm off both.
Both, really?
For good?
I'm
for
off
life?
Both. What is it? Social dilemma? I couldn't do it anymore. When I realized there are 5,000, like hundreds of thousands of people working every day
Did you
to
ever
figure
end
out how
up
to keep
watching
me
that? You never ended up watching it. Yeah.
I'm a LinkedIn junkie, but I am off Instagram and Facebook.
I love LinkedIn.
It's been like that for like a year plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good. iOS or Android?
iOS.
Work hard or play hard?
Play hard.
Nice car or nice home?
Home.
Passenger or driver?
Driver.
Money or free time?
Free time.
Your toilet paper, is it over or under?
It's over.
Gotta. Iced coffee or hot coffee?
It's literally 50-50.
Yeah, depending
afternoon,
on
summer, ice, morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, I'll say hot because
crazy weather. Sure.
Consistently
normally,
hot.
I'd say hot. Yeah.
TV or book?
I don't like my answer, but it's probably TV, although I don't really watch that much
TV. Working alone or working on a team?
Team.
Morning or evening?
Morning.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Family or friends?
Family.
Netflix or
family?
Hulu?
Friends are family, actually. I take that back.
Okay. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
All right, and then lobster roll. You do it with butter or do you do it with mayo?
I don't have lobster
I would do it
with... He must have had a lobster roll.
Yeah, no, we've traveled in Maine and stuff, and there's like Lobster Shack here. No, sure. definitely butter. Not huge on mayo. But a fun fact on that, I got gout like 2+ years ago, and I stay away from shellfish, red meat. I can't do it anymore. So,
and that's what causes it.
Shellfish, big time. Yeah, shellfish.
Shellfish,
like high fatty foods.
Shellfish, red meat, booze.
Alcohol.
If you're like, if you're really hammering all three of those all the time.
I've never had gout. I should be like the spokesperson.
You've got a decade or two till you have to probably worry about that.
I drink, and I think today we're gonna have 2 lobster rolls because we have our review.
Nicole's probably older than you, Kori.
Oh, easy.
Not to give away her age.
How old are you?
I am 38.
See, I'm 40, so I'm already older than you.
Close enough. We're the same. That's the same. Plus, it doesn't matter how old you are. It matters how old you feel and how old you look, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Not a day over 30, so you're good.
And you're looking amazing, brother. So I think we should change that chocolate or vanilla to milk chocolate or dark chocolate because nobody says vanilla.
Oh, yes. What is it? Are you milk or are you dark?
I'm like closer to milk, but my wife likes dark, and so sometimes she'll have like the tree bark and call it dessert, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, dark is right.
I like the dark chocolate myself. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome, Kori. Really appreciate it. Any final thoughts? Obviously, if anybody wants to go hit up PlanOmatic, we'll link up the website there. But any final thoughts that you have?
No, I mean, I really appreciate what you guys do. I think you run a really good podcast, a good company. I like to watch it from afar, so I really appreciate you having me. This is always a lot of fun. I jumped at the opportunity when you shot an email to me, so I just want to say thank you. I also that was a tough conversation about the buyer's agent. I mean, I supported it. I really do.
Thank you.
I did
he's trying to reel back.
Yeah, I'm trying to reel back a little bit here. I mean,
get on the fence.
I hope that we focus editing. Hopefully, editing does a good job of me saying, I think that we need agents to help people. This is the biggest decisions of their lives. I just think the model.
And I don't think that was lost.
Came through.
I don't think that was lost.
Okay.
I think what the purpose of this is conversations, and that's what we're trying to have.
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the lawsuits, but I think something significant enough, and right now I'm speculating. I do what Mike never does, I do believe something big enough is going to come out of that there will be a dramatic change on the buy side. So you're not wrong to say it. Everybody that's not in the industry says that just seems weird. So, you're definitely not wrong to bring it up. I'm glad you brought it up. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, depending on the administration, the NAR is like the third or first biggest lobbying group in this country. That's just a matter of fact. So looking out for the best interests of buyers and sellers, of course, that's the main goal, and we appreciate it. So
yeah, we'll see what happens. Kori, thank you
so
much. You guys should go check out PlanOmatic if you're not already a customer, and just appreciate you. Hope I can see you soon sometime.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you.